What do you do when you want to learn about something but you don't really have the time or patience to go through the long, normal and arduous process? Well, if you're like me, which I sincerely hope you're not, you'd go through a crash course and nothing crashes bad enough as my attempts at humor. Anyway, here is a crash course on the earliest giant monsters to ever be featured in movies, which means theaters and cinemas back then. Let's get to it. At number 20 we have the Black Scorpion. In the film, volcanic activity releases gigantic prehistoric black scorpions from the ground. They cause chaos in the rural countryside and eventually threaten Mexico City. Distributed by Warner Bros. Across cinemas in October 1957, this movie is one of the first to ever feature massive creatures in the big screens. Well, one of the first. And you can imagine the thrill of the experience. At 19 we have 20 Million Miles to Earth. This movie was set in Italy and centers on an alien life form from Venus that arrives via a crashed rocket and begins to grow rapidly. The creature, who is dubbed as Ymir, probably pronouncing it wrong, anyway grew out of proportions to around 50 feet tall. And whose feet was the metric of measurement, you might ask? Well, King Henry I of England. Number 18, the Deadly Mantis. In May of 1957, a gigantic movie monster, a 200 feet long praying mantis, was awakened by a volcano eruption in the North Pole, which had been trapped under the ice for millions of years. Although this mega-sized insect, which bears all the resemblance of the real-life version, was seen in cinema 68 years ago, it is still here on the 18th spot. Number 17, Rodan. This is the first flying kaiju to ever be seen. Well, one of the first. And it is one of the first kaiju to ever make landfall in cinemas, although to be honest, it is the fourth in line, after Megalodon, which is the third. Rodan, as most of you know, and for those that don't, is originally a gigantic prehistoric pterosaur that was awakened in Japan after another gigantic kaiju called a Megalodon was released earlier from its slumber by mining operations. Number 16, The Beast of Holo Mountain. This is the second movie of 1956 to have large terrifying creatures. This is the Beast of Holo Mountain, which was a beast that traps or kills prey, victims, and cattle in Mexico. Hey, you gotta applaud the Mexicans of this era for their pioneering in monster flicks. Number 15, The Forbidden Planet. The monster from the id, or ID, is the main antagonist of the 1956 American science fiction film The Forbidden Planet. It is a creature made of solidified psychic energy, which was derived from the subconscious thoughts of Dr. Edward Morbius, and was powered by the Krell Great Machine. It ended up killing everyone except for him, Dr. Edward Morbius, and his daughter, and in the end destroys the entire ship. Number 14, Tarantula. The film is about a scientist developing a miracle nutrient to feed a rapidly growing human population. However, this testing the nutrient causes extraordinarily rapid growth and creates a deadly problem when one of the tarantula test subjects escapes and continues to grow larger and larger and becomes the size of a battle tank. A tarantula, I might add.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Number 13, The Journey to the Beginning of Time, a Terror Bird. This is a teenage creature feature flick, the first of its kind. It sees a group of dumb teenagers who want to find a living trilobite. Yeah, like every other teenage ambition, it's mediocre. Why not find something bigger than a trilobite? But what they get instead is a ride through time in a river ride, and one of them is almost eaten by a terror bird, amongst other things. At number 12 we have It Came From Beneath the Sea. No doubt the creators copied the origins from Godzilla's template here. We see a monstrous gigantic octopus rampaging, well, not so much rampaging as slithering destructively along the west coast of America after becoming too radioactive from nuclear testing in the South Pacific. It is still, till now, amongst the biggest movie monsters ever at 500 to 600 feet. Well, in the world terms, it's 150 to 180 meters. Number 11, Angus. Here in 1955, the kaiju Godzilla battles another gigantic monster in what would be the first ever kaiju showdown in history. And this other one is Angus, as he was referred to in the film, was an ankylosaurus, a fictional dinosaur that lived between 150 to 70 million years ago. This is the first time Angus was seen in cinema, but not the first for Godzilla. So now at number 10 we have Godzilla. The king of the monsters, Gojira, is no doubt one of the most famous gigantic monsters and his baby steps were taken in 1954 when the first ever version of the character was shown in theaters in Japan. Here he measured 164 feet tall or 50 meters. He was at first conceived originally as a precaution to nuclear or atomic power. Surprisingly, people who have seen him in cinemas wanted more of the atomic breath instead. At least that's what I think. Number 9. Them. Although highly unknown as well as ignored, the film is one of the first of the 1950s nuclear monster movies, and the first with big bugs as the threat. A nest of gigantic irradiated ants is discovered in the New Mexico desert, and they quickly become a national threat when it is found that 2 of their young queens have escaped to establish new colonies elsewhere. Number 8. The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. In the film, the Rhedosaurus, a gigantic 200 feet long or 61 meters long dinosaur, is released from its frozen state in the Arctic Ocean by an atomic bomb testing. One can say that this is the first atomic monster, and that Godzilla from 1954 is often known as having taken inspiration from the film. It's a cult classic is what it is. Number 7. Mighty Joe Young. I wouldn't say this is a rip-off of King Kong, but I'm not denying it either. Anyway, anything I say will be held against me in the court of law. Mighty Joe Young tells the story of a young woman, Jill Young, living on her father's ranch in Africa. Jill has raised one gigantic gorilla from an infant and up to his adult years, and later brings him to Hollywood. Why? Where she uses the creature for money, honestly. The Arctic Giant. Well, technically a superhero animation movie, this movie features a gigantic T-Rex that was recovered from Siberia and taken to Metropolis, where it reawakened and attacks the city. Yeah, I know I missed this one in the previous biggest movie T-Rexes, my bad, but I'll make sure to add it in the future installments. This T-Rex here is many stories tall and was finally subdued by Superman and reared in the end at the zoo. So now at number 6 we have Fantasia. Back when Disney was still good and wanted to entertain people, like in 1940, it released an animated movie called Fantasia, where here we get a creature called the Chernobyl. It is a gigantic demon featured in the Night on Bald Mountain / Ave Maria segment of the movie. While he emerges at night, his reign is subsequently ended by church bells and sunrise. So at number 4 we have the Son of Kong. This is the second ever Skull Island movie, and here, after the death of King Kong, a group of people again makes a trip to the world's most dangerous place, Skull Island. I guess people back then were built differently, and adventures were not just about getting drunk and getting laid in exotic places. It's also about finding giant monsters along with it. And here we find Kong's albino son called Keiko, who was smaller than Kong but still twice the height of a grown man. And number 3 we have King Kong. Well, you all know this story. A group of people go to a mysterious island which is locked in time that has prehistoric giant creatures, and one of them is King Kong, the ruler of the place, as well as other large dinosaurs like the meat eater. He then sims for a beautiful woman called Anne Darrow and was later drugged, probably I would say roofie, but then taken to New York, where he dies atop the Empire State Building, fighting against biplanes. Number 2. The Lost World. The Lost World is the first ever full-feature film to showcase gigantic creatures in the big screens, and these were dinosaurs like the Brontosaurus, the Allosaurus, and the T-Rex. Imagine 100 years ago, people going to watch a silent show about dinosaurs. That's what we will still be doing a century later for Jurassic World Rebirth and Primitive War. Well, not silently, but you get the point. And number 1, The Pet. Released in September 1921, The Pet is a short animation that was shown in cinemas, cause obviously 104 years ago there was no streaming anywhere, not even TV. It is the first ever to feature a gigantic creature on the big screens. The mysterious creature, adopted by a clueless couple, consumes first food or its milk, then sadly the house cat, the house furniture, and even rat poison, and then as it grew, it ate passing vehicles, airplanes, and a blimp, while growing larger and larger and attracting the wrath of the US military. Now, if you like this video, then watch this other one too, and do check out our channel for other monster content, ones you haven't seen before. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, fam.